The uproar is getting louder tonight over local police departments forced to return armored military vehicles to the federal government. Members of the Michigan congressional delegation are putting pressure on President Obama to give them back. 7 investigator Jim Kirchner tells us how the vehicles have become a political hot potato driven by current events.
This letter was signed by 6 members of Congress here in Michigan going to the White House, and it was written after 7 Action News contacted many of them asking for their position on this controversy, and they took notice.
It's late in the process when we got wind of what was happening, but I'm sure we'll hear from the White House.
At issue, these armored personnel carriers with tracks that were excess military and given to 15 local police agencies in Michigan and in several other states. After clashes between police and protesters in Ferguson, President Obama earlier this year signed an executive order to return them to the feds. Too heavy-handed, said the president. Then the mass shooting in California and an active manhunt for unknown shooters. That happened just as these units were being returned on the presidential deadline.
The whole move by the White House is surprising because the president the other night came out and said that he was doing everything he possibly can to protect our citizens and he was going to be aggressive in the fight against terror. And then the next thing they do, they start taking these military vehicles back from local law enforcement. It's just a complete disconnect.
The letter to the president says in part, "We urge you to rescind the ban on the transfer of certain equipment under the 1033 program that your law enforcement equipment working group has classified as militaristic in nature." As we learned in the attack in San Bernardino, California, local police and emergency personnel are on the front lines of this new phase in the terrorists' war against us. It is signed by 6 members of Congress.
I've heard from Sheriff Bouchard and I heard Mark Hackle in Macomb County talk about how important the vehicles are in these mass shootings and attacks, and I think the president has to listen to local law enforcement.
It's not known when the president or if the president will respond, but we will keep watching. Jim Kirchner, 7 Action News.
All right, thank you much, Jim.